He's just like to start things out by saying he's extremely excited that the band's finally going to make it out here, especially in light of the fact that the original plans had been
canceled.
Yeah, canceled at one point.
Yeah, we were all sick.
You were all sick, really?
Yeah, we were sick. We'd been on tour for 22 months,
Uh-huh.
and we had to go home, or we wouldn't ever be able to come here. So we decided to cancel the tour so that we could start in Japan this time, which was a goal, which I thought everyone was really excited about.
Mm-hmm. This is a magazine for guitar players, and we'll be asking you questions about yourself as guitarists. But first of all, start out by asking what sort of music you listened to when you were young, when you first started getting into music.
Growing up, I used to hear everything from, with my parents, who are big music fans. I used to grow up listening to everything from Mose Allison to Buffalo Springfield to Bob Dylan to Andy Irving and Paul Brady, which are Irish folk music, Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs, to Sly and the Family Stone, Joe Cocker. I mean, my parents were very diversified in the music that they listened to, and they always listened to it. So growing up, Chris and I were subjected to that or whatever, and that's probably part of the reason that we got such a love for music, because growing up, that's all we had on. And later, Chris and I started, developing our own musical tastes, which also spanned this huge spectrum.
I, on the other hand, came from a completely non-musical family. There was no music ever in the house, except for a couple of my mom's old 45s from like the 50s, like Chuck Berry and stuff. And that's pretty much.
When you first started getting into music, what were you listening to?
Just that, because that was the only thing I really had my hands on, except for radio and things. So it was, like Little Richard and Chuck Berry, old 45s and things like that. And then just once I got a guitar, I just pretty much went for that kind of more guitar-oriented 60s foul distortion rock guitar thing.
So you were listening to stuff like by Cream or the Yardbirds?
Yeah, like I was really into Jeff Beck when he was with Rod Stewart and Wormwood. Very into that.
Mm-hmm. Copy that stuff?
I tried to. I couldn't do it. I just sort of more or less just jam with the record rather than try to copy anything off of it.
What exactly accounted for your starting to play the guitar? What was the one event?
There wasn't ever an event. It was just like, Chris and I growing up so much, we always loved music, and it was like, I'd always like, I don't know, I always looked at, a guitar as this weird thing, I don't know. It was never like this one big thing that was thrown down on the table, like the seas didn't part and damn huge storm came along and someone struck me in the head with some lightning and I said, I want to be in a band. It was just like I got a guitar for Christmas because I had expressed interest in wanting to learn how to play, and that's what happened, And the first thing Chris and I started doing, from the first chords I learned, was writing songs. I never really gave a shit about trying to copy someone else because first of all, I sucked so bad I couldn't. And secondly, I never felt that you could get any kind of gratification out of just sitting there playing someone's songs your whole life. So I started writing songs off the bat. I mean, they were obviously simple, but they were songs written with the best of my ability, and that's how Chris and I started. He's always had an amazing talent, which I think sometimes goes overlooked by people in general. First of all, he's got an amazing voice. Secondly, he's an amazing frontman. And thirdly,
he's so funny.
Thirdly, he's funny, but fourthly, he's got an amazing comprehension of language and an amazing talent to be able to control it, which I think is like a gift that people don't really understand a lot of the time. And only a few people come around that way. I think Bob Dylan was like the dude who, had total control of the English language or language in general, and I think that's what his thing was, and I kind of am easier, playing guitar. That's what's my whole niche or whatever.
How old are you on that original Christmas when you first got the guitar?
I was like 15. So it's pretty late in life, I suppose, 15. I didn't really, I started playing. I didn't, but now, and I've never been one of the guys to sit in my room 24 hours a day. I'd play it a little and then get bored and then go do something, you know what I mean? But but it's always been a constant. And, once you get better, you start playing more and more. But I still, I don't have a guitar in my room every day just going, playing scales. I don't even know what a scale is. I don't know how to play scale, so I just play whatever. I mean, some people do that. I don't know. I'd like to get a videotape and just wonder what the hell's going through their head if they're sitting there all day going, you know what I mean?
It's an obsession, Rich.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's like running, distance. Once you've run that 20 miles, I mean, you wouldn't want to do it unless you had tried it. But once you do it, I guess you can't stop.
Yeah, well, it's like what? I don't know. What is the point? To me, you got to leave shit open for the future. You can't burn all your bridges right in the, you sit there and you get so proficient at your guitar. And then what's left? I mean, I always, Chris and I or whatever, I've always approached things as to never pigeonhole yourself. Never put yourself in this little corner. Never put limits on yourself. And I think that overthinking and overdoing doesn't leave enough space. And I think that space is the essential quality that everyone needs to share. And that goes in all aspects of life. There's always a time to not overdo it. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think people really get it. I mean, you can sit there and write a song and fucking play 7 million notes in a minute, but what does it all mean? Whereas, say, Sly Stone or whatever, or even Bob Dylan can just play an acoustic guitar, never even play a solo, but that means 100 times more than a million solos because it comes from the heart and it's something that leaves potential, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people start out with a potential that turns into a song, but we approach songwriting as a song that has potential to grow. And like all these songs on this record will probably change 7,000 times before they're done, and hopefully they'll never be done, you know what I mean? I mean, every time we play them at every show, they're going to be different because no song is played the same way twice. No song is recorded the same way twice. Unless you spend 3 years in the studio plugging into bullshit computers and effect racks and fucking, little drum tracks and millions of dollars worth of effects to plug in and try to make it sound like a fucking Fender amp. Why don't you just plug into one? You know what I mean? It defeats the whole purpose. And I think people start doing that, and that starts turning it into a product instead of something that's what it's supposed to be, which is a creative, spontaneous thing that comes from within.
Like that.
Yeah. That's actually cool, though. Should get me to play that.
That was a challenge to you to play it. It was very difficult.
Well, I wasn't great. I don't think I'm great now, To me, it was a challenge. See, I was always into the songwriting school, and it was more of a challenge to further songwriting and get better at that, which involves getting better at your playing, but not to a certain extent. I mean, playing guitar is a challenge. Anything you start that's new is a challenge, but if you approach it as this thing that I've got to accomplish immediately, then that's when it's just more of like busy work than a challenge. A challenge to me is building something over years, and and leaving yourself a lot of room so that in the future you can get better and better and better at whatever you do. And that's more of a challenge to me, is to hopefully that my songs will get better in the future instead of just reaching a point where you begin to either parody yourself or just fart around with well, this was my most successful record, so I think I'll stick with that style. Well, there is no style to music. If you're good, then you rise above it and you just do your own thing, that's the whole point.
When you, let's go start your work with open tunings.
I was like, you know, I played regular tuning for, you know, a while, long enough to get decent at it. And I felt like, well, everyone does this, you know, why not try something different? And through, you know, like listening to a lot of like folk music and blues and things, you know, actually it just always sounded so cool to be able to go like lower. I never understood why, you know, like a Nick Drake song or something would go low on his guitar. I mean, I don't think anyone ever gave that guy credit for being an amazing guitar player, but he could. He was so amazing because of the things that he did within chords, and he would, and it was just like the low aspect of it or whatever, which got me into the way he could play and the way it sounded, and I started like tuning my guitar low, or you know, trying to get that sound happening, to see what I could do with it, what myself I could do with it. And then I've, you know, come to find out that it's like a open G or whatever, and people from, you know, Keith Richards, the obvious one, to, you know, like Joe Perry and Aerosmith, Nick Drake, all the Irish folk people, you know, a lot of used in American folk music. It was used in a lot of country,
Blues stuff.
and a lot of blues stuff, and you know, but everyone wants to point a finger and say Keith did it first, but he didn't. You know what I mean? And but come to find out through the years, it was just cool to see who, you know, how that is and how it evolved, and that's why I decided to do it. It was more interesting to me than just sitting there trying to do what everyone else does.
Yeah. Ultimately, it has a lot to do, your work with the open tuning has a lot to do with the way you concentrate on the composition aspect, because it enhances the song overall, I guess, to work within that framework.
Yeah, it expands it. Yeah, I mean it does, because I mean, you know, like how many chords can you play on a guitar? You know, how many things, how many times have things been done? And I like to expand and use all of it in a different way. And I looked at that as, you know, as just a cool like expansion or whatever, or however you want to put it, to just the standard everyday bullshit. And being such a music lover as myself, I've, you know, love all kinds of music from, you know, dating back from the 20s to you know, now. I mean, there's a few bands I like today, and you know, and I think it's that all comes into play in the music. You know, and a lot of fucking people are gonna give us a hard time and say we're retro or whatever. You know, and it's like, what the fuck is that all about? I mean, to me, what we do is, in art in general, and even though art's a pretentious word which sometimes shouldn't be used, but in my case, I think, you know, music, some music is an art. It's all about spontaneity, and it's all about coming from the heart, you know, and that's the whole point. You know what I mean? Being able to expand, and you're inspired from the past. You can't be inspired from the future because you don't know what the hell is going. You know what I mean? So you look at things from the past, and that's how you become inspired, and that's how you do it. And then you see that and see what's been used, and if you take it somewhere, then you've done your job.
Well, it's also the fact that there's no books on how to write a song and how to create something, so you just have to take from how it's already been done.
And if you expand on it a little, I mean, you know, like, to me, to me, an exact science has nothing to do with music. I mean, you know, like I said, the effects and the 3 years in the fucking studio, I mean, that's a product. That's when you know yourself so well. It's just like, what more can you do, you know? Let's sit down and put our stupid little fucking drum sound and sit there and play with the click track and playing exactly as is, then plan out all our little notes to where they're radio friendly and we think everyone will like them. And then we'll put a really good effect on our vocals because we can't sing for shit. You know what I mean? Then we'll write these fake ass songs. Yeah, or get someone else to do it. We'll either have someone write our songs for us who's written a bunch of hits for other people. You know what I mean? That turns into a fucking product. It has nothing to do with being in a band, it has nothing to do with writing songs, it has nothing to do with creativity. It's all cheating.
It's about being a celebrity and stroking your own ego.
It's called cheating the public. You know what I mean? If you're a fucking heavy metal band and you do an acoustic song that sounds like a hack James Taylor song, you're cheating, because that has nothing to do with what your band's about. So what you're doing is you're whoring yourself out to sell fucking records and cheat the people so that when they throw down their money, they think they're getting this one thing and they're getting something different. Well, to me, that's a crock of shit. You know what I mean? And I don't have time for that. What we do is something, it's just like, you know, it's the ultimate compliment because we're laying ourselves on the line. We're opening ourselves up to the world. You know what I mean? And we do it from our, you know, and, you know, you can sit there and I don't want to pat myself on the back or anything because, you know, but the fact of the matter is we do what we do and that's how we do it. And it is spontaneous. And we went to the studio and recorded our record in 8 days. And we wrote it, you know, Chris and I wrote it in a weekend, you know, pretty much. And that's what it's called spontaneity. You go into a studio, you're a fucking musician, that's your job. I'm a musician, so we played 350 shows. We recorded that song in 8 days, or, you know, that record in 8 days. Was it nerve-wracking? No, that's what I do. It's not nerve-wracking. It'd be fucking nerve-wracking and meticulous to sit there and have some dude over there on a stenographer sitting there plotting out everything, you know. Well, in 1987, when we wrote, you know, so-and-so, it went to #1 for 5 weeks in a row, and it had all the components that everyone liked it. Well, what is that? I mean, how cool is a fuck-up on record?
Yeah.
In actuality, how cool is it when, you know, when you hear Jimmy Page breathing, or, you know what I mean, or when you hear Sly Stone fucking taking a hit off a joint or something in the middle of one of his songs. There's a Sly Stone record that he's recording in the basement of his house, and his fucking kids crying in the background, and you can hear it on tape. That's amazing, because that'll never happen again. And, you know, and that's the
Also,
whole
doing it
point.
that fast never gives you the chance to second guess yourself and start going, maybe I shouldn't have done it, maybe this is, just do it and get out, and it's done, you live with it.
Right. It's the most honest statement I guess you can make. Yeah, none of the guys have been criticized as being retro, but he's never thought you guys were retro at all.
Tell him thanks.
Well, at least
Does you guys, I guess what, Rich, you do rhythm and Mark, you do lead.
Well, I don't think it's that black and white.
Yes.
We play together.
We just mesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the question. He was saying how do your parts work out, and how do you adjust to each other? What can it be boiled down to certain rules, or just as it happens?
No, it just happens. It's all. I mean, that as well is a subjective thing. You know, it's like Mark has never played with a guitar player before, which is cool for him. It's a new experience. It alleviates a lot for him. You know, he's done his thing for like, you know, 10 years, and he's like been doing this, and he's really cool and proficient at that. And I think that joining this band, where, you know, it's like a lot of people say, well, how did Mark Ford influence the band? Well, turn around and say, how did we influence Mark? Because we're already this thing, you know. And Mark joined the band, and this is a whole new world for him. You know, having to play around someone else, and us actually for the first time having to play around another guitar player is a, you know, it's a really cool new experience. And I think that aspect of it, on top of the fact that he's such a good guitar player, you know, just makes it easy. I mean, the songs are the songs, and they're already written, you know, when he joined the band, and then he comes in, and it's just like, wow, you know, he adds this thing to it. You know, our styles are totally different, which is cool, and I think it just adds that extra spoke to finish out the wheel, which is supposed to all make a point in the middle.
There's nothing more redundant than having two guitar players in the band play the exact same thing.
Yeah, you know what I
The
mean?
only reason why that rhythm guy is there is so that there's a guitar going on when the guy takes a solo.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I know.
It's
And so this way, all of our notes and shit that we play, or whatever it's called, we play.
or instead of one guy playing a full chord, he might play half of it all finished.
Yeah, I mean, it meshes together. It's like a big wall of noise, and that's what's cool about this record. I think that, you know, even I like listen to it now and go, "Fuck, man, what were?" I mean, certain instruments that mesh on top of each other make it sound like a totally different instrument. Even if it's two guitars we're playing, I mean, it could fucking sound like, you know, like a trumpet. or something in the background. You know, you're not quite sure, and that's what's cool about it. You know.
Also, when you're listening to it, it's obvious that there's no way to be able to plan out what was going on because it was everybody playing together and listening to each other, and the way it lays out is just there's no way to sort of sit down and make those parts and like overdub and lay that sound together. That is a band counting off to 4 and starting and ending the song, and that's it. And like there's like what 2 of them that we did 2 takes of, you know, like they're all like first and second takes.
A couple of them we actually did on the first take. Time Will Tell, the Bob Marley song, was the first time it was ever played. Was the time we recorded it.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, it was like, all right, this is how it's gonna go. Everyone heard the song a million times on, you know, the Bob Marley's version, and then we're like, all right, let's go, just see what happens. It was actually just an accident that we recorded it, you know.
Whoever was around in the studio just picked up something and shook it or
yeah,
whacked
you
it
know,
against something else.
I mean, that's the cool thing. It's like, you know, I'd wanted to do the song, and so I was like, well, Chris, let's try it. And they were like, all right, let's record it. They just put a big mic in a room, set up some mics all around, and Mark and I were sitting in front of this mic. Chris was standing right there. Steve was just banging a floor tom with a tambourine on it, and the girls were, you know, in the booth singing or whatever. Ed Harsh just playing stuff. George was playing bongos, and it just, the first time he'd ever played it was that time. And that's the coolest song, I mean, that we could do, I thought, for that time, you know what I mean? Because it was such a, you know, Bob Marley is this guy that's such an amazing, like, huge superstar, but I don't think people actually got what he was about. And I don't think people realized that he was the guy who rose above all the stupid little labels, you know. No one thinks Bob Marley's this reggae guy. No one goes, oh, he's that reggae guy. No, he's Bob Marley. I mean, he's one of the few artists to ever write a perfect song. And I think that he wrote a bunch of them, you know what I mean? And
good track record.
Yeah, and so I think that us doing this song was kind of like just letting people know. And it turned out to be like such a cool thing that we just kept it.
Yeah, I read a magazine the other day something. It had nothing to do with like reggae sort of sound. It was more like a bunch of guys on the street corner in New Orleans just kind of have.
What, this song?
Yeah.
Oh, someone told me it was a tribal chant. That's what they told me. They go, it sounds more like a tribal chant. I go, all right.
No, playing the slide.
I do.
それで誰か影響された人とかそれで見た
Do you have any influence in terms of slide guitarists?
Well, I like a bunch of them, but I mean, I don't know. I just play it. I mean, I've never sat down and tried to like emulate a slide guy because that's such a that's just like such a slop gray field. You know what I mean? You can either, you know, be technically proficient at it, or you can just do it. And I just did it. You know what I mean? And I guess it's kind of turned into a something, but I don't know what it is. You know, I just play it because it sounds cool.
That's where style comes from. It's just grabbing it, just going for the sounds that you hear in your head.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Aside though, when you consider your style has changed at all since joining forces with Marc?
No.
The only thing I can hear different is that it's more sparse. Because I'm the same way now. Because the two styles are working so well together, we can not have to play all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more like a bouncing effect. You know, there's more air.
There's more space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, I think it's more tasteful guitar things come out of it, so that, I mean, to me, I've always been a big fan of subtlety anyway, and there's a lot of subtle things on the first record that I tried to get across, and, you know, for whatever reason it did or it didn't, but I think, you know, in the future when people listen to it more and more, they'll kind of get it, some of it more. But, and that's the same thing with this record. There's a lot of subtle things that you don't really know about until you hear it a lot. And I think the cool thing about this record is the space that's available on it. You know, it's not like, you know, it's not like in your face, just, oh, here comes another fucking
Yeah,
chorus.
it allows the listener to sort of almost get inside of
Yeah, and it takes you places. Each song's different, but then again, the whole record's something for itself. You know what I mean? The whole record's like a body itself, and the songs are good on their own. But I think when you listen to it as a whole, it makes a totally different meaning.
まあ最初それでも I guess saw this article on you in Guitar World.
Yeah.
And this is
それ
I guess it's essential listening.
どの辺がいいのかってコメント
You
と
know, he wanted you to come-
anything like that.
あとマークにも同じように5枚あげてくれって
This is your list of 5 essential albums. He wanted to know why you list each of these, and he wanted to get the same 5 from you.
Oh God.
You have time to think about this one. Just answer it.
Why did I come up with this?
Yeah, well, there's no comment on, you know, your reasons or rationale.
See, I don't know. See, people like this just always like. I think this guy kind of picked his own. And I've never even seen this. Where's this from? Guitar World? I remember doing these pictures. I don't know. A lot of people just kind of like, you know, in America, it's like a big thing to be very, pat yourselves on the back. A lot of the journalists over there are of the age that they think they invented music. They think that the Stones belong to them, or that kind of music and the protests and all the things that happened in the fucking disgusting, over talked about, belabored 60s belong to them. So they try to relate that to what we do. So every time I got to talk to some asshole in the United States who tells me, well, you guys are pretty good, even though you ripped off the Stones or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm sure this is one of those dudes who just kind of came up with his own fucking, you know, 5 albums that he thinks I sound like, but he probably just kind of twisted it around to say that I said it.
Or they kind of collectively out of other
Or I probably
interviews.
listed like 100 fucking records or something, and the guy just kind of like wrote them. Oh yeah, you know what I mean? People do that in the States, and it's just like, you know, it's like they pat themselves on the back for something they never did. You know, they're like, come on, guys.
I don't think I could actually make a list of 5 because I mean it's like
Yeah,
depending
because
on your mood
it's
and
music.
how
You know what I
feel,
mean?
It just it varies so much.
Oh, total. I mean, there's no way I could list 5. There's like, I mean, I could list like 300, but not 5 because you can't sum up all of it in 5. I mean, like, look at these are all the people that first of all,
That you compare it to?
rocks I wouldn't mention. The Faces definitely not, because I don't think that that's an important music. Stand is the total wrong Sly album. If I was going to pick a Sly album, it'd be Fresh. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, it's just some dude just not knowing what he's talking about, which they do a lot.
Or a lot of times they'll just take bits of other interviews. I've seen interviews where I know that you guys didn't say any of the shit because they just took little bits of other interviews and
Yeah.
made up one.
They should make up their own shit.
Well, I'm not going to get you. We're running out of time here. Just enough time for the pictures, and also maybe a comment from each of you to the aspiring guitar-playing young readership of Young Guitar Magazine.
Follow your dreams.
To me, I don't know. You got to have a place to take someone if you're going to tell them where to go. And so I don't think that I could like sit there and tell them how to do it, because anyone who tells you, if you do something someone tells you to do, it's not going to be what you really want to do anyway. So you might as well just do it yourself, the way I see it. So I don't know. Make up your own mind.
Yeah.
I mean, because whatever's good for you isn't necessarily good for me.
Thank you.
Oh,
All
and
right, thank
also, we had a request here. They have this thing, I don't know why they do this if they print it in here, where you're supposed to trace your hand.
Yeah.
But don't you know who?
どっちがいいでしょうか。
Your left hand, you like trace it and then sign this. I don't know if they take a picture or they give it away to the readers or whatever. But if possible, I guess, yeah, you just trace your left hand and then sign it.
That's strange.
That's strange, but true.
All right.
They're
On
Which side?
doesn't matter.
どっちがですか?
Which side? That's
White side, yeah.
The gold's much prettier. I take it this is a Sharpie or something.
Yeah, you just use those.
Well, if I get any paint on my damn hand,
Sue the magazine.
You'll get a nasty clean name.
なんかダメとか言われちゃうかもしれない。